I caught 2 entitled kids stealing from me. Small disclaimer that English isn't my first language, so I hope you can understand this. Also, this is more of an entitled children's story. I hope that's okay. So, this happened a few years ago when I was about 11 years old. I was really into Playmobil and I'd like almost everything. My room was heaven for every child. Back then, every time my cousin or a good friend came over, I offered a piece of my collection for them to take home because I thought they might like it. Now to the story. My dad has an old friend Ed who has 2 children, but both are younger than me. I'd count much, but probably 4 or 5 years. A girl EG and a boy EB, of whom the girl is the older one. Although the girl was like half of my age back then, she knew words I didn't even hear once in my entire life, and she tends to say inappropriate things. I never liked the 2, and neither did I like my dad's friend. I always had to give them my toys and my plushies. And that were always my favorite ones. Imagine a little girl who is 11 and younger, having to give her plushies to children she didn't really know, just for the sake of being kind and welcoming. I was used to choose the people I give my toys to, and those were only close friends and family, not random children I never met. One day, the friend came over with his children. Of course, me being closest to them in age, had to play with them, so I took them to my room and we played with my Playmobil. I was really protective of certain houses/figures because they were my favorite and no one besides me is supposed to play with them, and I knew how clumsy the 2X were and didn't want them to destroy my houses. We had a small conversation that went like this. Me: "Hey EG, EB, please don't play with these things," pointing at literally one house and an ambulance out of 4. I really like them and the way it's decorated and I don't want it to be destroyed. However, feel free to play with anything else. Egan: Deb: "Okay. Understood." I was relieved to know that they would stay away from the house and play with the other things. I still observed them like a lion, just in case. After about 5 minutes, I went to the toilet, and despite me telling them not to play with the house and ambulance, I came back to the EB playing with my ambulance while all the pieces fell out of the back doors. It was a really cool ambulance that was able to flash blue lights and make siren noises. I tried to be kind and put the little bits that fell out back into the car and close the doors. I saw that he loved the ambulance and showed him how to use the siren and lights. Boy, was that a mistake. He turned it on and on and on and on so many times and made the sounds with his mouth as well. In the meantime, EG has started to play with the house I told them not to play with, and within the blink of an eye, the ambulance drove into the house and it collapsed. It was a rather old one where you can combine each part of the walls and build any house you want. I just watched it, breaking without saying a word, staring into what was my favorite layout, my favorite furniture and figures, and my pocket money. It was partly for my sister's collection who stopped to play, but also things I paid for with my own money and my dad's. I looked like it was hit by a missile. I am still surprised that I didn't begin to cry regarding that I was 11 years old. I pretty much just sighed and watched them destroy it even more. I was pretty flabbergasted because every other visitor who came to our place and played with my toys or whom I showed my collection was always respectful of my boundaries and told me how cool it was. My mom didn't even move the houses an inch when she was vacuuming my room. I don't really how long it was, but for at least 3 hours, I had to endure EB making siren sounds similar to that one Minion meme and EG screeching and yelling while playing. When I heard Ed yelling for the kids to come downstairs because they were leaving, I was so relieved and thought this was it, but nope. EG and EB yelled, "Just 5 more minutes please. Back down." Ed said 5 and sat back down. About 15 minutes later, Ed yelled again and they reluctantly got up with suspiciously clenched fists. I don't even know how I noticed that back then. They went to the stairs, but before EG sat a foot down, I asked, "What's inside of your hand?" EG: "Nothing." I raised an eyebrow. EG: "Really, it's nothing." A little smirk formed that she couldn't hide, so I grabbed her fist, which was still clenched, with one hand and the fingers of it with the others. I started to open her hand, which she tried to keep closed very hard, but after a few millimeters, I saw an orange piece of plastic and I immediately knew what it was. I fully opened her hand and saw her having about 3 Playmobil kittens and 1 adult cat in her hand. They were pretty small and part of the house she destroyed. EG started laughing and so did her brother. I took the little parts that he had from him as well. They tried to steal my toys in my home and they didn't even put an effort in it. I was fuming so much because I thought it was so unfair of them to first intrude my home. Yes, for me they were intruders I had to be kind to. Then secondly, don't listen to me and destroy my things, and thirdly, to steal from me. After this had happened, each time my dad only mentioned the name of Ed, I was scared that the children would come over again, and one time Ed did come with EB and I had to play with him again, although I was like 13 or 14 by that time and I still had my collection of Playmobil. Yes, I had it for a very long time, but I stayed in the living room with him and played a stupid card game neither of us understood, and after we were done, I put the card box on the table and lo and behold, the box was gone, and guess who took it? EB and Ed. I still remember the story to this day, and thankfully Ed and his ex didn't visit us again. I hope this stays that way. I hope you enjoyed this little story. Edit: Ed did not lecture his children or tell them that this behavior wasn't okay because they are children. They do things like that. It's how children are. Story 2. Things my entitled parents did I'll never forget. Well, now that I've been realizing how bad my parents were, and I'm finally far away from them, let me tell you one of the times my mom slapped me. I'll admit I wasn't a saint kid, but I surely wasn't the worst. The worst thing I did was sneak in my parents' work computer and play games in it. No drugs, no sneaking out, no crimes, no drinking. But apparently that wasn't good enough for them in this case. I was about 15. I was in the office when my mom comes screaming, "What did I do with the phone's batteries?" Context: the office phones have batteries on them, rechargeable. I have no reason and never have I removed those batteries. When I tell her I didn't do it and pointed the same things I pointed here, she slaps me. My dad later told her it was him who removed the batteries. My mom's response? Oh my bad, no real remorse, no comfort, nothing. At that age, I had a big hand mark across my face. Another time, my dad confronted me for supposedly calling a radio station on my emergency phone. I had the contact just for the sake of having a contact. I was 14 with no friends. Apparently, my phone accidentally called it. I tell him the truth, I never called that, it must have been by accident. He proceeds to punch me, saying that's for lying. Yes, punch me in the face. I, in anger, screamed, "This is why I don't talk to you." Big mistake. He turned about to pummel me. I quickly grabbed a wooden chessboard in my room and covered my face with it, and ran backward towards the closet filled with clothes. He only managed to hit the board, breaking it in half. THX to the clothes, he missed the rest of his punches. Then he screamed, never to talk to him like that again. One of the final things that broke the camel's back in our relationship is when I finally managed to get mental help from therapy and was diagnosed with severe ADHD at now 29. After getting help and being treated, I decided to tell my parents in hopes that they would understand why I was the way I was and mend the relationship between us, willing to take the blame and forgive each other. When I told them, they said, "Oh, we already knew, we just didn't want to waste money on you and figured you'll get over it." That shocked me, so I told them that maybe you should check on my sisters to be sure they are fine too. They said they are perfect. You were the only one with mental problems in this house. That hurt me severely, making me have very low to no contact. There's a lot more they have done, and I'll post more stories about it, but these are the ones that stand out to me the most.